eventually.
And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Hello and welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the Toronto FC fan show. I'm Mike Newell, and what a week for TFC. You thought things were a little slow, you thought things were a little off, and then the next thing you know, transfer drama. These guys are taking off for Spain. It feels like the preseason is well and truly underway with Jeffrey P. Nesker and friend of the show, Sean Levy. Gents, how we doing this week? Are you keeping up with the Josh Sargent news? Are you keeping up with the Tom Bogert? Like, he seems to be literally in Josh Sargent's living room. Getting
What are you, a spy for Norwich? Huh?
Like
are we seeing your real colors right now? Spy for Norwich. Got to choose sides, man. There's no sitting on the fence in this fight. You got to have a dog in this fight.
Especially if you're on social media, like, you cannot avoid it. Like today, with all the drama going back, first, all the shade being thrown at us North American soccer fans, not football fans. I find it entertaining. You know what?
Have you been lurking, Sean? Because I've been mixing it up. I chose violence today. Yeah,
I noticed. You know what? I've been taking a backward on posting and tweeting and just kind of enjoying the show.
I wish I could do that. I wish there's got to be a time or a day where I can do that myself. That would be fun. I kind of, yeah.
I've tried to, for the most part, I've tried to stay out of the comments because, like, I don't know. It's weird because you can't, as a fan, it's not like, what am I supposed to do? Like, it's not my fault. Your player wants to leave. Like, like, what do you, like, it's not our, like, we do what any other football club
we're getting
would do.
right into it.
Table the bid
and
the player wants to go. Now, if anything, it's y'all are digging in your heels and making this more difficult than it needs to be, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the constant calling us Americans, like, the two takes that I've seen all day that I think are insane are, we want the same that Werder Bremen bid for him 6 months ago. Transfers don't work that way. Time remains undefeated. Like, obviously, his price could either rise or decline. I would argue maybe it's declined since then, but that's batshit. And then the other one is that they're the one club that's going to figure out how to maintain the salary of a disenfranchised player. What's he still on the books for, like 2.5 years? Like, they're going to play hardball, like consign him to the U21s indefinitely, and it'll be okay during their relegation battle. Which, I mean, listen, I have empathy. Like, we just spent years learning that wasn't the case, and that you can't carry a giant albatross around and expect to be competitive. So, it's an interesting situation. It's crazy, the tribalism of fan bases. Like, most of the time it feels like looking in a mirror. Like, all of their takes are just perfectly reasonable when you're that upset, and they're obviously upset. So my heart bleeds for them in some cases, but in others, it's inexcusable. Some of the takes have to be challenged. And like I said, I chose violence today, but
fair enough. Well, I mean, Tom Berger's been dropping news on this over the last couple of days. And the most recent one is I guess Josh Sargent and Norwich had a meeting between the sporting director, head coach Philippe Clement, and it didn't go well. Apparently, again, is one of those things where it's kind of like you hear certain things, you're like, okay, how much of this is real? How much of this is like agent spin in terms of how bad or how well the meeting went? But apparently, at least for today, or at least this weekend, Josh Sargent will never play for Norwich again. Now we'll see how that turns out next week. But at the moment, it sounds like things did not go well in this meeting. It sounds like there were things said about Josh Sargent's family, maybe his baby mama. I don't know. But it's looking like it's going to be a exit of some kind. Whatever
Mhm.
that is, we don't know, or when that is, or who that is, we don't know. But that's the latest report, and it sounds like club and player at a bit of a stalemate.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
you
sorry,
have
I
to.
was so lost there, but I wanted to call him Geezer Butler, but his name is Ben Napper, who's the sporting director, the third person in that room. Uh, yeah, apparently, the scuttlebutt is that the fan base finds him a little spineless. So there's also this sort of intrigue going on where they're sort of happy that he had the cojones to insult Josh Sargent or not insult Josh Sargent, but there is that bit of scuttlebutt as well.
Yeah, you got to think there's no way that they can come back from this. Like, if everything that is being reported is actual facts or as close to the facts as it can be, if management is sporting director is insulting my family, how do I forget? How do I forget? Right. And
Yeah.
I think there was also part of the quote where they said, if Josh Sargent apologizes, we'll welcome him back. But I mean, I don't see that happening. And even if somehow they were to come to some agreement, I still don't see him being happy there. And I don't see the coach trusting to, maybe start him or, there may be games he's not in the part of the roster, the game day roster. So I don't see it working out. I think it's just it's gotten to a point where, it's a bad breakup and they just need to part ways.
I mean, it's funny. Like, you don't see it working out, and then you just mentioned all the different ways we went through finding out stage with Lorenzo Insigne and company. So it's like, at the end of the day, like, they don't want to listen to us, but the fact of the matter is that we have some pretty deep muscle memory of this kind of situation, for better or worse. And the other thing I would argue is like, we see this so often. This you have to understand our league, because we're the old money or whatever the case may be, but we have absolutely no care and compassion to MLS operating with a salary cap, etc. ad infinitum. I don't, it's just something I notice all the time, that it's like, well, money, like, they, what I mean, like, they claim to be so intellectual about it, but they ignore the vagaries that make MLS so interesting and unique in the wider soccer mosaic.
Yeah, and look, I think you're at a point now where we're a week and a bit out from the end of the European window. Technically, the MLS window doesn't start until next week. It doesn't actually open until next week officially. So TFC, from a Toronto FC perspective, if they really want to slow rolls, they got time. Now, I know from a fan perspective, we don't think they've got time. We'd like to have him in sooner rather than later, if they're hell bent or just fixated on the fact that he's the guy. But you're now at the point where, if this move's going to happen, it's going to have to happen pretty soon, I think, and it's going to be a point where, Norwich is going to have to make a decision. Look, they're trying to dig their heels in. Publicly, they are saying sort of the right things to appease their supporters, and I can't blame them for that. But let's be real, this is about them trying to get the feet up, right? The manager's talking out of both sides of his mouth. On one side, he's saying the player's not going, and he's got to respect the club, and he's got to respect the badge and the supporters. And on the other side of his mouth, but every player can go for a price. Right. And if we get the price, okay, maybe he goes. And I think that's really where we're at this point. And there's a lot of discourse in Toronto FC land on whether or not this is kind of worth it. Like, is it worth upping the bid? Is it worth pushing this more? I'm probably leaning on the side of, if they really have done the work on this and they really seem like they this is their number one target.
Or only target.
Your number one target, right? But all I'm saying is be sure, right? Because if Josh Sargent is now coming here and you're saying he's the guy and he's going to be a DP and he's going to make a DP salary, I don't think it's going to be the highest in the league or anything like that, but this would be the third highest transfer ever in league history. Toronto loves nothing better than scrutinize high-paid athletes. And if he's coming over with this kind of sort of drama that's preceded him into the club, you just want to make sure that he's not kind of getting in here on the wrong foot and having to just deal with all of that before he can actually get on the pitch and really prove what he can do.
I mean, this team runs on redemption arcs, right? Like that's what we crumble up and throw in the fuel canister to get us to the next level. So there is something to be said for, like, we should welcome him in with open arms. But I mean, you sort of roundabout address the rumor that there were no other targets and that they have tunnel vision on this guy. And I don't think
it's not, they don't have other targets. They just haven't moved on to any other targets, right? They're now on Josh Sargent, and they're trying to make
because that money's spent, right? Like, and they don't want to put it into plan B if there's still an option on plan A. I mean, you say tomato, I say tunnel vision, right? Like, it's sort of the same thing at this point.
But here's the thing: is from like, how long do we want them to push for this move? Like, could it happen where this move ends up falling apart at the last minute and we're not able to pivot to plan B? And that's what worries me, because didn't we kind of go through this, when we saw the all for one video where they showed how things didn't go the way we wanted to last summer or last offseason? Like, are we going to go through this each offseason where we had our target, but we just couldn't get it over the line, and then there was no plan B option, or it was too late for plan B?
I mean, I think sorry.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sure you have something better to say than that.
Well, I was going to say, like, I think just with plan B, whatever that looks like, again, I don't know if it's Europe, I don't know if it's a free agent, I don't know if it's South America, where the window is going to be different to bring them in. I mean, they can still sign European players into the club. The clubs just got to be willing to let them go through the MLS window. So it's not a situation where I don't think TFC necessarily need to rush to make this happen, because the window for MLS is open until like mid-March. So they've got time on their end. I guess the question really just becomes, how far do you want to push it? How much you're comfortable raising the bid? And if this is the guy, then go get your guy and be comfortable with it. And I think that's where it's kind of at. And you'd like to have them in camp just sooner rather than later, right? So you can gel, build chemistry with Georgie and the other players, especially the front sort of three, and they're playing a front two. Depends on how they're going to line up this year. But you just want to get that chemistry going right off the bat, because fitness is not going to be a problem necessarily. He's already mid-season fit, so it just becomes down to chemistry.
He's training with the U21, so that statement is getting further and further away.
Well, again, if you can get him in sooner rather than later, right, you can at least get him match minutes and get him in with the first team, right? That's kind of right. Like, that's kind of the point in terms of trying to get him in now. So we'll see. We'll monitor how this goes. There's more twists, and clearly there's going to be more twists and turns in this, right?
And I think it's a game of chicken, and basically they're clock watching, right? And unfortunately, the results haven't been going our way with respect to Norwich, being relegated. I think they're above the line now, as I'm being told repeatedly by angry Norwich fans on the internet. But I think, if we are to believe the rumor that there is a clause that if they get relegated, like, they don't get a transfer fee, he walks, then I think they're just playing chicken with each other. And it's, my worry is this. Look, people keep saying don't equate this to the pause situation, but of course I have to, because it's the most recent TFC move that's sort of similar in a lot of respects, right? And I think the thing that we forget about with pause is that debut was electrifying, right? Like, that debut completely erased any qualms about, were we getting him at the wrong time, or did he have enough training? Like, he put that to sleep immediately. That's the expectation for Josh Sargent if this mood manifests. And if it doesn't, I mean, like, if he thinks he's leaving pressure there, he's coming to way more pressure here. I hope he's not watching the show.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, our friends at Touchline TFC kind of said it, right? Like, I think this is kind of where we're at right now. Really, in a sense,
there is a cruel inevitability to it. I think,
yeah, I think there is, and there are just a couple of comments just here. I'll address really quickly. Why is he so hell bent to come to Toronto? Look, I think part of it is, he gets to be a DP, he gets money, but I think realistic. I think this family thing is real. Like, I think, from
it's a 2-hour flight versus a 6-hour
exactly,
flight.
and being closer to home. And it's not Cincinnati where he's from, or sorry,
No,
excuse me, St. Louis,
Louis.
where he's from. Yeah,
I pitched off Norwich. You're pissing off St. Louis.
Yeah, I know. Well, he could have gone to Cincinnati because but
they made a bid for him.
Absolutely. They did make a bid for him, and they turned down the money, or they were looking for a lot more. So look, in the end of the day, I think again, as I said, kind of last week, Toronto FC, although we've been a sort of a trash fire in terms of on the pitch and some ways off it for the last couple of years, this is still a enticing club for players to come to, right? If they're the ones who can turn this around and figure it out and, turn BMO back into what it sort of was in terms of its raucous best, then
we won't build you a statue. We'll defame you on your way out. But
exactly. We'll love you while you're here, and then when you're out, the club doesn't treat you well. So, but hey, hopefully Josh Sargent isn't watching that part. Okay. Really quickly, moving on to preseason, the team has now traveled to Spain. They are in Spain. They released the roster for the players currently under contract in Spain. A lot of a lot of TFC 2 players, super draft picks are there as well. I think one trialist. So, I think we'll kind of see how this works out. But for the most part, I want to say the team's kind of settled to a certain extent, but a lot of at least the sort of the positions that we don't already know need to get filled are kind of settled. It just comes down to, okay, who's really going to come in terms of signings for the next couple of weeks to round out the team. Right. And
I'd agree to that.
The other thing about training in Spain, we'll see how many games they get in. Last year, they went with, I think, the idea of at least playing 2 or 3 games. They ended up playing 1 game.
Did we end up playing that Swedish side that we're always supposed to play and then never actually do?
We played 1 game, and then I think 1 or 2 of them ended up being canceled for some reason. We don't know why. So, we'll see if, the guys get in there and get more than 1 game this year. Well, hopefully they will. They're scheduled, I think, to play at least 3 in Spain. Somebody in the comments could probably correct me on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
No, just because it will be interesting to see if they can get, I think the key to a good start will be a proper preseason where you're actually getting proper minutes and not just scrimmaging against each other, because last season that definitely didn't help them get off to a good start. And whether it be the role players figuring out what they're supposed to do when whether they're coming in as a sub or whatever it may be, trying to build proper cohesion amongst the group, you need playing time, and not yet, even if it is a preseason friendly, you still need to get out there and get a feel for each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say the bonding. I mean, they're in Spain. You know what I mean? Spain is for bros, right? I'd say that if you look at what TFC put out today, that content kind of reflects the mood. To me, I think we can judge the success on how many cool BTS social feeds we get, how many shirtless paddleball videos we get that you want to put to Kenny Loggins. I think we got the answer 5 to 6 games this preseason.
Yes, we did. We did. Appreciate that, Giancarlo. I guess no one also touched on TFC, just giving us some context of what happened last year with BK Haken.
What a name! What a name! BK Haken. That is a name.
Just I'm just ready for a Whopper at that point. When I think BK Haken.
BK Haken,
yeah. But if you go through the trialist list, or at least through the travel roster, there's a couple of interesting names here. If you follow the academy and you follow TFC2.
Oh, good! You awesome. Give us
a little. Richard Chukwu's in the camp this year, which is cool. Obviously we talked a little bit about Stefan Kapoor last week. He's battling to see if he can get a spot here. Antoine Bossenberry, I have heard his name a lot in the academy in the last couple of years. I'm sure somebody has a lot more in the comments, sort of insight on him, but I've heard a lot about him in the last sort of year as he's a guy that could potentially sort of break out into the team.
Cool.
And I mean, again, this is kind of the cool part. Like, of course, we want to see the signings, we want to see who they bring in, but this is also the part where you kind of get to see, okay, what do we got next coming up? Because I think there is at least an attempt by the front office and by Robin Fraser and his staff to incorporate some more young players into this team, and I think that that's exciting to see. Obviously, from that perspective. And then the last one, I'm almost going to shout it out because, a little bit of the Jamaican heritage here. Jamari Nolan, I think now he's 16. I think when he signed, he was 15 when he joined TFC2 and showed flashes last year with the twos. I don't think he's going to be a player that's going to crack the senior roster right now, but definitely, an exciting player to look at least for, training camp and see how he's developing potentially towards the first team. So a lot of like interesting sort of mini, not battles per se, but just to see how some of the younger players are developing into more of a role or potentially into a role in the future.
I have a new favorite player, by the way. Bosenberry, is that how I say it?
yeah. Bosenberry, yeah.
Keep an eye on Bosenberry. He's still young and needs time, but he's a future stud that specifically Jeff will love. I'm sold. And then just to add a little cherry on top, my new best friend and favorite player, Bosenberry, was listed as a top 60 prospect in world football. Let's buy all the stock.
So yeah, well, I mean, Jaquil was there once, and we'll get to Jaquil in a moment, but Jaquil was up there at one point too. Sorry, go ahead,
now,
Sean.
I have a question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
I don't mind the young guys. I think, it's good to get them in there. What I don't want to see the club doing, which they seem to have done a lot in recent years, is, sign a bunch of them to the first team and we really don't see them after that.
Yeah.
And, let's get these. If they're not ready, they're not ready. Don't just add them as fillers. I'd rather get players that are actually have potential to be part of the roster and do something at some point versus just, oh, well, look, we're signing all these young kids from our academy that 2-3 years from now, we, aren't even with the club. So that's the only concern I have is that, great. I love seeing these young guys in the camp. We want to see them get that experience of with the first team. But at the same time, if they're not ready, don't rush it.
That's a fair comment. That said, it's kind of the balance with MLS roster building, where you have these supplemental roster spots.
You have to use them as cannon fodder sometimes.
Exactly, right? That's kind of the point of those roster spots is they don't count against your cap. Most of the time, the teams use them for their homegrown players. Though I do agree that I think, if you don't fill them all up, make sure that the guys that go in there are really ready for prime time, or maybe not ready for prime time, but like they're on the way. They're really on the way to being ready.
They could use the being thrown into the lion's den, basically. Like they're ready to be thrown in the pool and learn how to swim, essentially. So yeah.
I thought was it last year that was like I thought he was a good, he had some good minutes last season. I don't know if it was injury or what happened, why we really didn't see him after a certain point, but I don't mind if when they do get out there, they don't totally look out of place. Someone like him looks like another year, he'll be ready for the grind of MLS, right? Young kid, but he had all the right tools and showed the right things, at least in the minutes that he had, right? Obviously, he's going to make mistakes. He's young, but he wasn't like the worst center back that we saw last season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of feeds into my question. I know you played. I'm sure, Mike, you have an opinion on this, but like, I always hear takes that talk about how scrimmages, you just can't, they just don't hack it, right? They just, at the end of the day, the level of competition is somehow off, or you don't want to injure each other, or whatever the case may be. How much of a leap would you say it is between a scrimmage to a preseason game, a preseason friendly? Is it like exponential, like 10 times more intense, or like we're talking under 10% or whatever? Bad math.
I think it depends on where you are in the preseason, right? The first couple games, you're just working out your kinks of the offseason, make sure, everything's working right. You're just kind of getting into the flow. As you're building into it, getting ready for the season, closer to that starting point, you start to ramp it up, right? You start to really get more intense because you have to be, it's not a matter of necessarily being game ready, but it's being sharp. Make sure your touches are on, make sure your feel for the ball, making sure you're starting to get vision, understanding everyone on, your new teammates, right? So you're building to that point so that when the start of the season, you're good to go, right? So
Now,
there's
isn't
definitely
that
levels.
drills? Like, do you need an opponent to
Yep.
do that? Isn't that just like muscle memory drills? Like, in your ideal world, you want to be there. Wouldn't it be frustrating to like be in a preseason game and want to do all that stuff, but you're playing against a team that is determined to park the bus in a preseason game, and it's your game plan just goes out the window, and you have a million subs, but you can't do anything because they're not letting you, because it isn't a scrimmage. Like, to me, I wanted to know where the line goes away, right? Because you see. You see stories of like, how is this player so good at that? Well, they stayed extra at practice and did that. Well, you don't need anybody. You just need a ball and a pitch for that. So it's always fascinating me. I just thought I would ask about it.
Yeah, I think like, look, at the end of the day, right? The reason training, you don't game speed is hard to replicate in training, right? You try
There
to
it
do
is.
that in
There it
training
is.
as much as you can. You try, they talked about it sort of in the media day last week, right? Like how intense things were in the first couple of days, and how how intentional they were about training. But a match is just different, right? Like you're working at a different speed. You don't know what the other team can do yet. So therefore, you're trying to implement your plan. You're trying to impose yourself onto the game. But situations happen, and you got to be able to react to them quickly. And that's where sort of the quickness of a game changes compared to training, where
Right.
things can be
You're
controlled a
you're
little
in way
bit.
more control.
Situations can
Exactly.
be controlled a bit. You're
Okay.
working on a specific thing, so you literally can, a coach can stop things and instruct, and then you start again. So you get to a certain level of sharpness and fitness through training, but in matches, you really get
You find
the
out.
eye for game speed, and just opponents and opponent speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a couple, like a thing again, touchline TFC coming through. Just and I was going to mention this earlier. They did play Forge in a friendly. I think a
Ooh,
Redeemer,
very alliterative.
or they may have gone
Forge
down
in a
to the bubble.
friendly.
Yeah. And then Lazar being said, I hadn't heard much about the friendly. So thank you, Touchline TV, for giving us a little bit of insight there. As both teams are starting to ramp up. Forge are going to play Champions Cup in like a week, which is wild. But we spoke a little bit about Media Day, so let's jump into that. I don't know if you guys got to watch a little bit of what was said. I watched them all.
Me too.
In terms of they had that big long supercut of all of them.
I watched them before the supercut existed, man. I'm
Oh, you're that hardcore. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I wait till the supercut came out. Yeah. I think a lot of it was, of course, first day back, not necessarily exactly the first day back, but first sort of big media session back for the players, a lot of speak. Obviously they were waiting for some of the national team players to come back, and chat a bit, but I was really interested in Jonathan Osorio, just in the sense that I think this was I could be me, right? The other people will have this opinion, but I felt like this was the first time that I felt like Jonathan Osorio was really comfortable in a press conference. Like he felt
Marriage
like
looks good on him.
Yeah, he looked really comfortable. I liked, just the way that he was talking about the team. There were other times where he would say, like, "Yeah, I think we're a team that could be on the up," and of course he's going to say that. But you're kind of like, I don't know if you fully feel that. This was different. This was different. It gives me a little bit of hope, in the sense that I felt like this was like a player who was really not just coming to his own as a captain, but also is really enjoying mentoring some of the younger players, and is really kind of seeing something come from that. I know what your overall thoughts were about the media day, but that was the one thing that kind of struck me from all of the sort of the pressers. Other than that, William Yarbo, I think, would be an amazing night out. Like, I think you got to get that guy in the lash, and I think he'd be a great time. But I don't know if Jeff, you get any thoughts about the media?
Well, I mean, absolutely. How many languages does William Yarbrough speak? He's pretty zen kind of dude. I think you'd be drinking like mead. He would take you to like a meadery. Like cideries aren't cool enough anymore. So like you'd have to go drink mead. I mean, mead gets you destroyed, right? It's like 18-20% pint. So you're
I'm
finished.
not a
But
meat
like
guy, so
I
don't
think
know.
I think he's that kind of dude. I agree with you about Oso, but I noticed it in the last episode of All for One, which was really just an extended preview for the new season of All for One, which is only a disappointment because I want all the other juicy bits that they sort of glossed over for reasons that we probably don't need to go into too much detail over. Again, you know, I noticed this myself. This little thing on your finger, you think it weighs you down, but it grounds you down. And I even noticed, like in the press conference, like just the weight of his hands on the table. Like marriage looks good on him. I didn't mean that in jest. I think, you know, that's given him. They all needed a breath. They all needed a way to put that into the past and look at the future. And for Oso, you know, luckily his marriage coincided with that real psychological need. And I feel that relief on his face, but I also feel a commitment to not BS us anymore. Right. Like that quote that they got when he was in, what was it? The coffee shop owned by Ash's coffee shop,
Oh,
right? Where he's like,
Sonder.
yeah, where he's like, you know, I don't think these people pay money to watch us, and I don't think they want to hear an apology in words anymore. I think they want to see it in action. You know, that's wonderful. Like that sounds like Michael Bradley. Let's be honest, and we've missed that kind of lunk-headed, sort of vaguely philosophical captain double talk coming from Oso, right? Like it's just been apologetic. Like, you know, what do I do? How do I keep the ship afloat? And now, like, you just see the weight is off his shoulders, and he's allowing himself to be more of who he can be. And that's because we've taken so much of the responsibility to be everything off of Oso's plate. Like now there's other people around that can take some of the heat off. So
yeah, absolutely.
I only saw a small clip of it, but it just from what I read and what I heard was there's a confidence in how he spoke that we haven't heard from him in a while, and there's a belief, and it's not like, you know, the speak that we hear a lot of these guys preseason. Oh yeah, we're looking for, you know, things are going to. You can actually feel what he's saying. Like he believes this, and he sees that, you know what, there's something different here. So
there's fire there. Yeah.
I'm not trying to, you know, drink the Kool-Aid and say, you know, things are going to be all great this season. I do like a lot of the moves they've made in the direction the club seems to be moving in, but only time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to just bring this up before we digress, but touchline, the most notable quote to me from the media availability was Lucas saying this is the time where he finds out if he's a number one goalkeeper or a journeyman. That's a ton of pressure to put on himself. I mean, I only remember this so well because I was cackling because like 2 seconds after that, they got to the journeyman of journeyman that we just signed. You know, with no shade to Yarbrough, who again is going to be an amazing hang, and getting drunk on meat is going to be absolutely incredible. And I can only imagine the stories, but I did find that juxtaposition pretty funny.
Yeah, and it's funny that quote. We talked about it a little bit last week because he kind of said the same thing in the All for One, the final All for One, about, you know, really this, you know, this is kind of the dialect. Like he's a baby as a goalkeeper at 25, but this is kind of the time to figure out if he's going to be a number one, if he's going to be able to carry a team, and he is probably going to be one of the most sort of looked at under the microscope players for TFC this year. I think there's a lot of fans obviously rooting for him. I think a lot of fans want to see him succeed and win. I want to see him succeed and win. It's just, again, the question is going to be, you know, in short spurts, you can look great. Can he do it week after week? Can he be consistent? You know, you're not going to pitch a shutout every single
not with this team.
Weekend. No, but I mean, all right, can you be consistent? Can you command that back line? Can you communicate in a way and quarterback a game at the back? Sean Johnson was good at doing that, obviously, because he's got like 400 MLS career appearances, national team appearances, things like that. we're going to see really what Luka Gavrin is made of in a
We
larger
sure are.
sample set. I think he can do it. Again, I'm preseason will kind of say a lot in terms of
Really?
can he? I think it will tell us something, right? In terms of just not so much shot stopping ability. I think we know a bit about that. Down to mentality, right? How is he going to mentally handle being the number one, and kind of being that guy?
But if he's porous in preseason, it doesn't really change. Like, my margin for his success or failure doesn't include him. Like,
oh no,
it's
no, 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 I'm
preseason,
not.
you know, like
Yeah,
he
I'm
can
not
let in
saying.
100 goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not.
Like,
I'm not
maybe
going to say like,
100, but
oh,
like,
he's not going to.
yeah,
He's going to lose the number
yeah,
one in preseason. That's not what I'm saying.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying that we're
Okay,
going to. We're just going to see a lot. We're just going to know. We're going to get a better sense of who he is as a goalkeeper. It's different
sure,
when you
sure.
come in and you're the number two. Like with Sean Johnson, he knows
I
he's the number two, right? And like again, he's a young keeper. He's growing. He's learning. That's sort of the role that he knows he has to be in, top of being ready for when he needs to go in cup games and when Sean Johnson's hurt. But now it's different. Now you're the guy, right? And of course, you bring Yarbrough with a ton of experience that can help him out as a number two and compete
as a wingman
potentially for that number
at the
one, which was
bar.
that was another interesting thing from William Yarbrough, what he said in his press release. It's like, no, I came here because I was assured that I would be able to compete for a job, right? So there's also that little thing in the background, which TFC fans in the past will be familiar with, between Clint Irwin and Alex Bono, and then obviously with Bono and Westberg. But
Yep.
we're going to just see that mentality and see how he does from that perspective. But he's going to be one of the intriguing the players of the season.
I mean, there's no way he can't not be.
Yeah. I'm hoping he pushes Gavrin, right? Like, Gavrin understands that, like, they signed somebody that in essence can play be the number one. So this is your opportunity to show the club and the fans that, I can be a number one. And I think we've seen enough in him that with more playing time, more consistency, less just like you said, going in these, when Sean Johnson's hurt, or the TELUS Canadian Championship, whatever it may be. We've seen moments where, if you can only get more game time, because at the end of the day, like we said, you can only do so much in practice and whatnot. Game time is game time, and he needs more. He needs to play. So that's the only thing we really can do to see if he's ready or not.
Perfect segue. So Sinister 4135 asks, how many matches do you think he gets to prove he's number one? And let me preface the question, because I think if this is a Liverpool podcast or a Man United podcast or an Arsenal podcast, I would certainly say we're not really going to know until he's at least faced every squad once. And then I would even be able to make an argument that, like, until he's played Liverpool at Anfield, if this is an Arsenal podcast, or, played Man United at Old Trafford, if this is an Arsenal podcast. This metaphor is getting so stretched, but it would be a long time. And I don't think Luka's going to get that amount of time. Now, there's some truth in this, because MLS isn't as tactically diverse as the Prem. So it's not the same beast, but how different is it for you guys? And do you agree with my initial statement that, like, if this was a Prem keeper, that would be the standard to hold him to?
Sean, you want to take that first?
I'm going to say if he was a Prem keeper, I don't think they'd give him that much time.
No, he would not, because he had that much time. If he's a Premier League keeper, not a chance.
My argument is that you don't know, like, you know what I mean? But yeah.
But the problem is when you're like, especially if you're a big club, it's all about winning, right? You're not getting the results. You're going to look like that's one of the easiest positions to swap out to see if you can build confidence from the defense all the way up.
Very fair.
Right? You can swap out strikers, doesn't make the same difference, because if one isn't scoring, the next isn't scoring, ain't making no difference. If your keeper's consistently letting goals in, you're going to make a change, right? Because at a certain point, the defense loses confidence in the guy behind it, and they start to make more mistakes. So club can't wait, 18, 19 games into the season to make that call, right? So with TFC, I would say 5 to 8 games maximum, right? And it really depends on, like, are we getting pummeled? Are we losing late games where, you can't blame him on that goal because turnover, where, they're on a 2-1 break. Like, there's so many factors.
Yeah. I think he's going to get more time. I think he's going to get a bit more time. One, because this is MLS. And in MLS, you just get more time. That's just the reality of sort of North American football, is that they, or at least I guess MLS, really, I shouldn't say North American football.
I mean,
but just MLS.
It's the reality of world football. You completely destroyed my theory, and I think your argument is kind of sound. So
yeah, I think he'll just get more time. Yes, Williams Yarbrough will spot start here and there. And get opportunities, but I really think this is his job to lose, and I think the only way he really loses this is if he's, committing, if he goes in and makes, in a 4-game stretch, 3 howlers and 4, yeah, maybe, but if he has a bad game, to Sean's point, some of the goals are probably, a lot of the goals will not be on him. Right, like it will be defensive breakdowns. It will be, sometimes you're just going to get beat by Golazo. Sometimes, you know what I mean. So, like, I think
away games are hard in MLS. Like,
yeah, I think they're just going to give him time and let him do. I mean, and again, unless it's howlers, unless it's really, really, evident that it's that, and I just don't really see that out of him. Then I think he's the number one until he really, really drops the ball on it.
Right.
I have a question for you both. With the Canadian Championship, in the past, we've known like that's been the young Canadian on the roster's opportunity to play in that. Do they go keep Gabriel? Do they go with Yarbrough, or do they even bring in Adisa as that's his one opportunity?
That's a very good question. I mean, Adisa's Canadian, so if they need that to make the compliant for the starting 11, I can see it happening. Because we are Team USA now, right? Think about.
You got enough young. You got enough young. You only have to start 3, so it's not like.
Oh, it's only 3.
It's only 3 you have to start.
Oh, I thought it was more than that. Forget I said anything.
Yeah, so it's 3. You just have to have these 3 as you start, and I think you have to have a certain amount on pitch at all times. But
I remember it being like more than that.
No, I think it's you just have to start 3 after that.
Yeah,
as long
3.
as you have like 1 on the
it used to be a little bit more. I think it used to be 5.
Yeah, I remember it being 5, which is
so there used to be 5 at one point.
Part of a starting 11.
But I mean, I don't know about Adisa. I mean, I feel like he's going to spend more time with TFC too. They may try to loan him out again. Look, I think they'll give some run to Lazar. They'll give some run to Kapoor. I think they really believe in both those players. And probably Smermanchich will get some time, right? Right there, those are your 3. You could probably slot in DeAndre too, if we're assuming that the number 9 is signed in.
We'll see.
So we'll see. I mean, again, like there's some decisions on some of the young Canadians they got to make, but to me right now, again, it's Luca's job to lose, and he'd have to do something pretty big, I think, to lose it.
Agreed.
Yeah. With that said, we'll talk about another Canadian no longer on Toronto FC, but I do want to bring this up just really quickly, because it's something that the TFC community was sort of talking about yesterday. A post from former Toronto FC academy player and senior player Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy about his experiences since joining CF Montreal. And look, I think that on the show we've addressed it before in terms of just the abuse of footballers in general, right? But obviously it's touchy because it is a rival, and because of the nature of some of the things that were directed his way. There is no room for that, whether it's a Toronto FC player, a CF Montreal player, or anybody else, right? And I think that you're now it's funny because you see some people trying to take pops at CF Montreal. It's funny enough, some CF Montreal fans messaged me directly, just saying like they're abhorrently disgusted by this, right? Like it's not necessarily a universal thing. It is I hate to say like the small amount of individuals doing it, but like it still matters and it still counts.
FC fandom is not immune to racism and misogyny. Come on, guys.
It's just one of those things where it's like, look, we are all passionate about football. We're passionate about our teams and we're passionate about our players. And look, I would hate it if Jules Anthony Vilsaint got on the team and the same thing happened to him from TFC fans. Not saying it did, but just you using that as a comparison. So I know that CF Montreal is taking it seriously. I know that they had to turn off comments on a welcome back post from the national team that they had put up for him because things were getting posted. So I mean, we stand with JMR. Obviously, he's our guy, of course, always and forever.
Once you're red,
and look, again, I'll always just say it: if you see it, like, call it out, right? Don't let it slide.
So you have to, because
it's so easy to let it slide.
Well, it's so easy to let it slide. I mean, we're seeing it. The world is on fire, right? And you know, I just to me, it's just indicative of like this sort of lackadaisical social contract kind of melting away, and I will always stand against it. So yeah, I mean, we got to speak truth to power, but it looks like the club's doing the right thing, and certainly JMR did the right thing to call it out, to be brave enough to call it out publicly. There can always be blowback there, so mad respect for doing that, and hopefully, I mean, it's not going to be the end of it. I'm not that naive, but at least it's sunlight is the best disinfectant. So
yeah. So yeah, we'll leave it at that in terms of just JMR. Again, we stand with him, obviously. And again, as I say, if you see it online, call it out, because a lot of guys like to hide behind
keyboards,
keyboard. They like to hide behind, not having their name on, putting their name on things because they think they're not going to be seen. Trust me, they can be seen. They can be found, right? From that perspective. All right. So just to wrap up a quick one.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This isn't a fever dream, but it was JMR when he played for us away at Stade Saputo, came back out from the dressing room still fully in his full kit to join a fight over a red card.
That is true. After he had already been sent off.
yeah. And he's still in his full kit like 20, 30 minutes later, inexplicably. That was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So in light of Toronto FC's 20th season, we're starting a new segment here on the show where it is our random red of the episode, where we're going back and finding like a random player, not like a star player, but just a guy who played. And there was a lot of guys, like a lot of just guys who played for Toronto FC for, 4 months, 6 months, a season, and then some of them literally just never played again. But this player, I don't think is the most obscure, admittedly. I think a lot of you are going, if you go back long enough into the TFC lore, you'll know who this is. No touchline. It is not Robbie Earnshaw. I actually think he's too famous for.
Oh, he's not going to be obscure, but he dropped the hint that I'm going to need to Google this guy. So let's go.
Yeah. So my random red of the day is the one and only, the well-traveled Rohan Ricketts.
Ricketts 1.0.
Ricketts, the original, like
the OG Ricketts
journeyman. If people remembered that time when he signed, the thing that you would never stop hearing is, oh my God, this guy played for Spurs. Oh my God, this guy came from the Spurs Academy. Oh my God. He came from the Arsenal Academy. I said Spurs Academy. This is a guy who, when he got to TFC, there was hype around him. I think he's one of the last Mo Johnston signings that Mo made when he was still GM, president, and I think he was president, GM, water boy, towel guy, kit man, all in one. We can go into a Mo Johnson segment at some point. But was here not for a long time, but for a glorious time. 4 goals. He actually started out like really well for TFC, and people were like, "Oh, we should keep this guy." No, it faded very quickly. But I will say that one of the things that he really sort of brought to TFC was a little bit of fun and a little bit of swagger. which up until that point, TFC really hadn't had. It had a lot of journeymen, a lot of MLS sort of workhorse guys on the team. But he was the first guy who kind of brought a little bit of flared swagger to the club. And you know, he was a fun one to watch. And you know, it was one of those things where early TFC, you get in and then you get out, literally either by your own choice or usually by the club.
This is pre-DP, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
This
was
was this
just
pre-DP? This might have been just around the DP.
Was it 9, 10, or 11? I can't remember when.
Whenever Beckham joined, I think Beckham joined 09.
Okay, so then it's right around the DP.
But I could be wrong. But he came as a trialist to TFC, and I think he played 39 appearances, for TFC.
Yep, 39 appearances, 4 goals.
Yeah, so long live the memory of Rohan Ricketts, who was playing up until I believe
he hasn't retired yet.
He's came back to Canada.
He's playing for Unionville Milliken. SC.
No, I don't think he's playing for them anymore. I think he played. He was for a minute. I think he played like a couple of games in
Wikipedia. To be fair, his profile picture on Wikipedia is absolutely elite. It is unbelievable. And
if we could share a screen, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing. I urge everyone here to go on Wikipedia, because it is absolutely fantastic. The other thing I'll say is, you were right. His youth career was at Arsenal, but then he immediately went to the Spurs for, it looks like, 2 or 3 seasons. So it's an easy mistake to make. He'll always be the OG Ricketts to me, but to Saint, my heart lives with to Saint. Fortunately, I love Todd.
Rohan Ricketts was a vibe. And that's it. He was just a vibe, and you either got to enjoy it or you didn't. If you missed out, like,
what a time.
We won't get players like that again. That was in an era when TFC were just, pulling at, like, hopefully this guy works, and
I need more details, because this sounds like a secret joke. Did he like jump in the stands and like drink beers?
No, he was just a dude. Like, he was just like vibes. Like, the dude was just vibes. You know what I mean? Like, he was like the first. Like, to me, he was like the first like guy who came in and was like, I love playing football, but I also like partying just as much.
Looks like he would. It would have been nice to be able to find him in a club somewhere and just hang with him for the night.
I mean, you were talking about his Wikipedia picture, Jeff. Like, tell me that's not a guy who doesn't want to go out. Like,
this guy, I love him. I want.
Look up Rohan Ricketts on Wikipedia and look at his picture and tell me that guy ain't a vibe.
Fantastic. I want to know what's under the trench coat, but I already know that nothing's under the trench coat. So, I mean, I answered my own question.
I mean, this is a guy. I mean, this is a guy, and all the respect to him. Like, when I say journeyman, like, he has played all over the world. He's played in, I think, Andorra. I think he's played.
It's fantastic.
Romania,
what a life.
In Indonesia. He played in India for a long time.
Yeah. Shamrock Rovers, Dempo.
It's a long list. It's a long
list. But I will say, after his 39 appearances at TFC, I don't think he had anywhere else where he had more than 12 appearances.
Not even close. So, yeah. But I mean, listen, I'm sure it sucks as a professional athlete on these teams not getting picked, watching that. But, if you have the right attitude about it, like with the right set of eyes, you got paid to play football professionally all over the world, free room and board. I don't know how much sightseeing you get to do with all the training and boiled chicken, but at the end of the day, there is some value in this. Like this, this is kind of neat. I'm sure he's got the best stories.
Oh, he's got stories. He's sat down for interviews to talk about some of this.
And his jersey collection must be insane.
Yeah, absolutely. But funny enough,
you're right.
Loves Canada. Like, he loves Canada. He loves
what's not to love. That's great. Maybe we should try and get him on the show.
He's settled here.
Well, I mean, according to Wikipedia, he's with Unionville Milliken SC, which I'm not sure is a football team or a stop on the go line.
It's both. It's literally both.
League One / Go train. Stop.
You go train.
Are they
Yeah.
playing on moving go trains? Because that
Veteran of the go train of the Glacier East line.
Man, if their colors are green and white, then they're my new favorite.
No, they're red.
Team.
They're red and white. Yeah.
Damn, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll wrap it up there, gentlemen.
You can't follow Midland Union.
You can't
SC.
follow
You can't follow Union.
Yeah, exactly.
SC.
But anyway, again, thank you everybody for tuning in, for joining in on the chat. Really appreciate it. Sean, thanks for jumping in this week. It's always great to see you, and get your perspective on TFC. We'll be back next week with another show. Stay tuned for when we drop the link and the show date for you. But for Jeffrey P. Nesker, for Sean Levy, I'm Mike Newell. We'll see you next week. Cheers, everybody. Bye.
And wait, and baby, I'm TFC till I die.